allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I don't see Ben Tippett here at this time, so Terry Wright, if you would lead us.
Let's pray together. Well, Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Lord, we thank you for a free country where we can assemble, where we can govern ourselves, where we can do business. Lord, we thank you for that. Father, we ask for wisdom now and insight on every single issue. Lord, we thank you for the privilege of serving. Thank you for our community, for our administrators, our teachers, those who work in the cafeteria, drive our buses, work on our lawns. Father, thank you for a great district filled with great people. Now, Father, again, be with us and guide us. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated, and if you will at this time, turn off your cell phones if you don't mind, and if you are wanting to speak or address the board, see Miss Douglas down here in the front and with her hand up, and she will fill out or help you, give you a card to fill out to speak. All right, first item on the presentation today would be Ms. Sheila Klaus, Palaca High School drama teacher, speaking about a future on-campus theater at Palaca High School. If you come to this microphone.
There we go, Ms. Klaus. Yep. And you can adjust that.
Because I'm really short.
And we need to hear you.
Okay. Hi. I came here today to explain to you the importance of having an on-campus theater. I want to start with jobs. I know what you're thinking. Actors don't. Very few actors get jobs once they graduate college. It's the thing. And we know that as high school teachers, we train them at this level to do better in their jobs, whatever they go into business or their lives. But in technical theater, almost everyone who graduates college in technical theater gets a job. And so that's the importance here.
Define that for
Set design, lighting design, costume design, and sound. And what I want to talk about, even if I can train high school students at this point in sound design and lighting design, they could apprentice right out of high school at Universal, the arena where the Orlando Magic play, Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium, Times Union Center, or Universal or Disney, whichever one. Both of those. They're all, lighting and sound design is so important in those venues close by here. And so if students are more interested in, going out to college, they need to build a portfolio to enter a design program. Even here at St. John's, you can't enter the design program without a portfolio. So they can build that at set design, costume design here at the high school level. That's probably the most important reason. You're saying to yourselves, well, we have a nice theater, and we do have a nice theater at the CeeLo campus, which is a great theater. That's a very hard theater to get into. CeeLo uses it for all of their programs, and Mr. P starts his musical early fall and goes usually through December. There's a nice short window in January. We've used it before. And then he starts toward the end of January and goes all the way to May. So it's hard to squeeze in there to use it. And also, a lot of my students are low-income students, and getting from the high school to CeeLo, they just don't have a way to do that, and so they just won't audition. They love class, they like acting in class, they want to try all these things, but they're not going to audition because it's very far for them. They know they're not going to be able to get there. A benefit of having a theater on campus is that we can use, all the school groups can use it for whatever their award ceremonies, their presentations. If you've ever been into the Commons at the high school or the gym for a presentation, it's very difficult to hear. The acoustics aren't that fabulous. And so if we had a venue which is designed for great acoustics with a sound system in it, all the school groups would be able to use that. And another thing, other groups in the community would like to use it so it could generate some rental income. I've talked to River City Players. They're very interested in having a bigger place, especially with a light board and a sound system and everything that they could use. Church groups, all the little cute dance recitals, yes, all of those. And so it may not pay for itself, but it's going to generate some income. The drama department won't be just saying, gimme, we're going to give back. What we'd like to do and I'll have Joe come up and explain this to you more, is we'd like to use the footprint of the racquetball courts that are there right now. The racquetball courts are not in fabulous condition. I play racquetball. I wouldn't play there. It's not a beautiful building to look at. I think it was at one point.
It was.
I could see that it was. As a racquetball player, I'm like, ooh, I was super excited, and then I went on the
Yeah.
courts. And I know some things that aren't really school appropriate happen there right now, so if we are able to enhance this area with this great new building, I'm gonna let Joe explain a little bit more about that, and I'll stand for the.
And we can't really see it.
Yeah, can you pass it around? Just take it off.
Well,
there.
let him do what he needs to do.
Do you need it for
Oh,
illustration
I got it
purposes?
memorized.
Okay.
You wanna see this good?
You wanna continue to tell Terry what to do?
If I need to.
So this was a concept using the existing racquetball courts and seeing how we could use this existing structure and put it to something that could be beneficial for the school district. It uses the exact same footprint, and we did a preliminary investigation structurally to see how it could handle. And what our findings have said is basically what we would do is put a metal building framework outside of the existing CMU walls, put the roof and everything on top of that, and let the shell of the building cover over the existing racquetball courts. And there's just minor penetrations and things that would have to happen to make it proficient and work well.
So it would be cost efficient to adapt the racquetball courts to a theater rather than tear it down and start over.
It can be, yes. If it's done well and done efficiently, we don't have any problems. Absolutely, I think so.
It'll save money.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm
So,
sorry.
Keep going.
Oh no, that's fine. It turns out that the racquetball court bays, their dimensions anyway, they line up well with what the metal buildings would use for their bays. So we can, run them directly in line, run a clear story steel structure straight across, brand new roof, and then you're just slight modifications, and you already have the majority of everything in place.
I didn't get to study that very well. How many seats?
It says on there how many seats. I can't- 200 250.
Oh,
So a small,
Yeah.
yes.
What does the Pignato Theater seat?
734 downstairs.
734? Okay.
Oh, 214.
214?
The
Okay.
fire marshal has, I think it'll seat 200, 700 something, but I don't think they recommend to get in the
Yeah, that just gets me in the ball game.
balcony.
That just gives me
Right.
Actually, I
comparison.
think with the balcony, it's 800. We used to put 800 students in there, and I think that's fine. Some of the plays, if they have lighting upstairs, they probably don't let people sit up there, so.
I was just thinking of comparison. Thank you.
There's one, pass it down.
Oh, good.
God, I tried for years to do something like this, and the state, at the time, they would not fund an auditorium of some type. And you had the student numbers where you couldn't put all the students at Placa High because of fire codes in one. I looked at digging out Florida Commons, making it a bigger area
where the
for that, and
driver's
it just
ed.
didn't work.
looks really
Can you
neat.
answer me on that? I mean, does the state, this is nothing that the state will fund, is that right?
Well, we're in the same quandary we always are, that we talk about, the Jim Pignato Theater a lot. Obviously, the state doesn't allow us to spend PICO money on, athletics or performing arts of any kind. So, Ms. Klaus, we've had a lot of conversation about how to get there. Obviously, like every conversation we have about a great idea, it boils down to how we're going to pay for it. Ms. Klaus has some great ideas, and she was actually going to talk to you guys about some of those. But basically, this would be a pocket theater. To be more for small performances,
Right.
things during the day, stuff for students. I think it's more of a teaching tool than an actually performing center.
Could that qualify
Yeah,
then?
because I see there's two classrooms.
Still-
If you redesignate purpose or,
Yeah, I mean, the problem I've got is when we go on to DOE and FISH and that kind of thing, they're very specific about
okay.
what the use of the room is for, and the room designation. And unfortunately, while the classrooms might fall into the actual performing arts, the set building areas, those kind of things.
I asked the
Unfortunately,
superintendent
probably
earlier, and she felt like we would have to have our own funding separate from PICO to do something of this magnitude.
We would.
Now, Scott, don't, all the schools that have been built, the high schools that have been built in St. Johns County, they all have an auditorium and a theater, but I think that they fund that themselves.
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
their tax dollars, their beachfront property gets them a lot more than we can have, but the state doesn't preclude you from having theaters.
Just they're not
But
gonna pay for it.
but they're just not gonna give
Another
us the money,
brand-new
so a
facility.
grant or something like that would be wonderful. I mean, it's a beautiful building,
Oh
and
gosh, this would
certainly.
be so wonderful.
Certainly, I'd love to have something like this at every high school. I mean, that would just be awesome. But certainly, cost of construction today, you're looking at $2-3 million,
We're
I'm
between
sure.
$3 and $3.5 million. I mean, we've done a very preliminary budget analysis based on, the rendering that Joe and CRG Architects have done for us, but it's,
I mean,
at this
that's
point, it's
beautiful.
very
Thank you, guys.
preliminary.
So $3.5 million, so $4 million, is that what we're saying?
No, my budget estimate's
3.2
between 3
maybe?
and 3.5, and again, some of that would depend on, what we get into as far as lights and, there's a lot of rigging and things that are expensive that we don't do every day. So once we nailed that down, then I'd have to actually go out and get some real numbers, but just preliminary budget numbers on between $3 and $3.5 million.
And I don't know that there are any grants available for this
I'll let-
kind of
I'll let
thing,
Ms.
but the
Klaus jump
performing
back in.
arts, I would certainly anything we offer our students, because we have students interested in performing arts, we have students interested in FFA, we have students interested in sports, whatever the child's interest is, if we can support it, it does a lot for them. Certainly, it helps them have a good attitude at school, get in less trouble, cut down on absenteeism, hopefully improve their grades or at least keep them where we need them to be, 2.0 and higher. So those are advantages anytime that we can offer students something that they're interested in. And I'm all for doing anything we can for students and their interests. And this looks awesome. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have one on every high school campus? How do we do that, Ms.
Well,
Klaus?
that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking Interlochen and Crescent City would love to have one of these.
Yes.
Interlochen
Well,
in
they don't have the
particular.
racquetball courts.
Crescent City has the Miller Intermediate Auditorium, which suffices in Crescent City, although it's
Right.
not on the campus. I went through this for 12 years trying to figure out how to do it, and I was at a loss. Now, that's a goal we can work towards, trying to get with the board attorney and figuring out how to do it, because it certainly would be nice. It would particularly, and Ms. Crawford's been there a long time, she could tell you that when you have, the kids and you try to have an assembly, you got to put them in the gymnasium. And you need something conducive.
Zero
but if-
acoustics.
But if you can't
In a
put,
gym.
but if you can't
Zero.
put over 200 children
Yeah, you couldn't
at
fit a
one
whole
time,
class
you
in
can't
here.
you can't have an assembly. So that's the problem. That's why I looked at, and I know Phyllis was around at the time digging out the floor in the commons, and you still couldn't get to the fire code. Trying to make it a sunken theater, but there were a lot of parents that weren't happy because they want what they want. And we got a fine arts auditorium at the college. We've got the
That we can't
Pignotto
use.
Theater, and we could use it, and now we don't use it, and that's. But they've got their own teaching things, and that's what Ms. Klaus needs. And I'm sure, given the support that the board and the superintendent have graciously given to the Pignotto Theater, I mean, this would be a wonderful place to bring elementary students to not only see that the high school is a valued extension of their education, but it's a place that they could go and it'd be field trip. You could pick up dollars that way. I mean, they would love it. So, Phyllis,
Well-
I don't know. You'd have to.
But you were going to tell us
Yeah.
about possible funding sources, right?
This is exciting because I thought I had to get over the hurdle of you guys being supportive. So yay.
We're nice people.
There is a grant, it's the Florida Cultural Arts Facility Grant that I don't see why we wouldn't get. We're very eligible for that grant. It's due June 15th, so we're looking at June 15, 2017. But you should know it's a matching grant.
Yeah.
So they would give us half, which is a lot. And what I was hoping that you guys could help me with, or anybody in the community, because I'm willing to do the work. I need direction. I don't know who to go and ask for. I'm not asking you guys for money, but which other grants are out there? That I dug, and that was the one that I found for Florida.
Let me ask you this, with the matching grant, could it be property and facility, or a property and that would be part of the grant, or is this cultural arts grant, does it come from the state?
It's a state. It's this Florida state, and you can't. Yeah, they would.
So
Is
you
there a
have
max
to,
on that?
the MAC
I
Foundation can help.
believe I don't remember there being a max. I read it back when we started. And I don't,
Can you
But
give me
the
that
only
so
way
that-
you,
I could.
the only way you get that grant is if you have matching funds. So if they're gonna give you, if it costs $3 million and they'll give you 1.5, then somehow you have to have a
Have-
1.5
Yeah, that's what
match.
she's
Yeah, you
saying.
can't-
She
you
needs
can't-
direction on how to.
You can't use school board property to collateralize. I think that's against the law, so.
Yeah.
So we couldn't use building and land to put that up as part of it.
You can sometimes, it depends on what the.
You can
When I
collateralize with state
read
property?
that grant, I don't think that you, and they wouldn't take
They wanna
in-kind
make sure
services
we have the
either as
money.
part of it. It was
Right.
moolah.
We can liquidate school board property.
Well, it looks like a worthy cause to me, but we certainly as a board don't have 1.5 million to put up as a match.
I knew that.
And that would be a lot of money to try to raise in Putnam County. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the grant would be awarded, you say it's due like June 15th.
Yeah.
When would they award it? By
It probably
what-
wouldn't be till fall, because after it has several steps to go to, and the final step is going to the actual legislature in Tallahassee.
Well, I know that this is something that Terry Wright and I could look at on our legislative end, and bring back to the board, but if this Cultural Arts Foundation is a state appropriation, it would be hard for us to get a state appropriation to match a state appropriation.
Oh, yeah, no, I was, yeah. And I didn't know, Ken, this is my second year at Palatka, and I don't know people, I don't know
Well, Ms. Costa, let
what
me ask
else
you
is
this.
out there.
Have you thought through places that are in the entertainment world, like Disney, like Universal? Do they have anything for Title I districts or rural districts in developing the arts? Do they? I know they have to have some sort of foundation that they give money away, right?
Yeah,
one would think so.
I looked into, I didn't look into the foundations. I looked into foundations of businesses in our area. Georgia Pacific was not super excited. And I'm like, fine.
God bless them, everybody
they
asks them
help
for
so much
for
everything,
everybody.
so.
They help so
Yeah,
much, and
Yeah.
that's not their bag.
Right.
So that
Well,
would be
they
consistent.
actually, they did have a arts grant, but they
Okay.
just said, no, thanks.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, but I didn't go further out. So, yeah, checking Disney and,
In Busch Gardens, that
Universal,
corporation,
yeah.
Universal.
And certainly our local arts groups here in Palatka and Putnam County, that if they thought that they would also be able to use the facility to put on some of their plays, it might be a joint effort. I don't know, is there anything that would
And what do you
preclude
think?
that?
What, at first hearing about this, what do you think about it?
After first hearing about it, I haven't had time to really look
Okay.
around it yet, but
Can't you use existing
I don't know.
Yeah.
matching?
I have somebody I'll contact and just see
Depends on the grant.
if there's anything out where he lives.
okay.
He's in the industry, so
Fabulous
he may
facility.
know some people. He may know no one, but I will contact him. I'm just just interested in the other two schools as well, and what their needs may be, what their dreams may be. If they have a passionate teacher like yourself who
They need to
is
come
interested,
talk
because
to
if we're going to go down this road looking, we might as well look broader rather than narrower. So it takes no more effort to ask bigger questions than smaller.
And
So-
I'm not opposed to a big giant theater.
We aren't either.
Right. But you need to be able to move it to the west end and the south end, so we can put it on wheels, right? They do
Well,
that
the
these days.
dream would be to
But I
build
mean,
one.
if there was a place on campus there where you could put that,
The dream would be to build one at each campus, because certainly and the city of Crescent City would be interested. They've already talked to me
I think it
about,
would be a
they
big
want
benefit to
a
them, yes.
community center and
Yes.
maybe a joint effort. There is property there, I believe, around Crescent City High School that could be done. In Interlochen, we bought property to move the transportation facility off of Interlochen High School. When we get around to doing that, that property that is there will be vacated and would probably be a perfect place for something like this. So each of our high school campuses have areas where we could do this. And certainly, I think it would be fabulous. It's something that would truly benefit our students. But I think the board has to say to you whether they want you to pursue this grant or not. Certainly, it doesn't hurt to pursue it.
Right.
And if you were somehow to come up with the matching money, that would be wonderful. I know they don't have it, but I wouldn't want you to not pursue it and then find out that you had a donor or Disney was willing to use you as a pilot program and say, all right, we want you to train students and then we want them to transfer down here and we'll match this, because you don't know what the possibilities are out there. But truly, any grant we write first has to be approved by the board.
And I thought that because there's a lot of paperwork involved in the grant itself, which you probably could whip out in a month just because you guys know stuff. I would not do it by myself. I think going after this matching funding is key. And then once if we can
I mean, because what would happen is if we didn't have the match, if we couldn't raise the match, they're just going to give it to some other community. So, it doesn't hurt to apply. We'd either be able to get the match or we wouldn't. But that would be a huge undertaking for you and your students this summer, a major project to work on. And if Disney was willing to work with us, great. If not, you might find some other benefactor inside or outside of Putnam County, and maybe they'd like their name on it to donate the match. You never know.
That would
whatever
be
it
ideal.
takes.
Some person that's like,
But it would
Oh,
just
sure,
be
here's a million and a
be
half.
creative and see what you could do. And certainly, any dollars that you raise, even if you don't get it done this year, we could look at it next year, because I'm certain, Joe, that these drawings will be good for a while.
Yeah, if Terry Wright, who has a son that's involved heavily in this, will serve as the liaison for you, Ms. Klaus, he can keep us apprised. I know that I looked years ago at also donating property and having a joint venture as a civic auditorium on the grounds of Palaca High, like on the driver's ed course.
Nice.
We had enough property to do many things, and we've already got the parking facility. But the county at the time was not interested, they're more into paving roads, which is, I understand that. If you got enough complaints over a washboard road and washouts, you would understand. But it would be very nice in Palatka to have a civic auditorium that could be used for a variety of events that could be
Right.
shared jointly, like athletic fields and complexes. So there may be a chance for funding like that through the county or the city or all of us together. I don't know about the outlying areas of the county. Those have always posed a problem because there's not, like in Interlochen, you've got a fragmentation like you do in Crescent City of separate municipalities, and it's hard to bring them all together under one umbrella.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Klaus, we have a small district consortium, and he just sent I keep up with grants, so it's small. Are we considered in the city because there's rural development?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll
Like
forward
this.
you that. That's the kind of things, and as we have, if I would ask that the paper would maybe say something too in the paper, but if we have these opportunities, because the state representatives, whether we get a grant from F.E. Oliver, which all those funds have to stay in Putnam. I can give you a link to apply. There's so many foundations, the education foundation. So the more you get the word out, the matching funds would be, possible.
Excellent.
So I'll send that rural, it's
Super.
Rural Economic Development Initiative.
Okay.
And so anything, and I just feel like if you just tell people like us and everybody, email me anything you get as you get it.
Yes.
And then those things do come about because matching funds you're basically getting double bang for your buck. So
Yeah.
a lot of organizations are very excited because they want to know where your funding's coming from as a source of several. So I appreciate you taking the initiative. It's amazing. And we would be excited to be a part of it in any way we can, so.
And the city and the county, whoever else might get involved, would probably want to see a larger auditorium, though, more than
Oh,
200
sure.
student, you know,
Is there
200
room
As long as
people.
I get
I
my
would-
two
I would just-
classrooms.
Yeah, I would just sort of caution the
shop.
board that this came to us as a Palatka High theater for clear usage for Palatka High. Then we expanded it to the west and the south.
Yeah.
Now we're expanding it to a civic center. Okay, just to remind you that this
Doesn't
is where
hurt
we
to
started.
dream, Mr.
Okay,
Wright.
so I would encourage us to get back to the schools. Just
Chamber of Commerce.
right, and you know, here's the thing. Where are you checking for grants? Have you checked
Just online and, you know, I
any
started,
specific areas?
Alice
I
McGinnis
started
is
with,
running.
well, I went through
Art.
the state grants.
Have you
and the
gone
only
through
one
like the rural development areas, which we've sort of talked about here?
I
There's-
have not.
okay, You
Yeah,
need to look there, there
I'll
might be
These are
grants
things I
there.
don't know.
That's okay, I'm sending that to you.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
yeah,
gonna, okay,
yeah,
then I
um,
don't have to write it down.
Don't
And,
write it down,
um,
I'll get you.
State, what is it, the ag, what is it, the agricultural grants that people get?
USDA.
USDA grants. You don't
USDA
get
grants.
USDA grants because we're considered a rural community, Talbot community, so that might be a place USDA to look as well. It's weird, but there are grants.
Okay,
So the reason I mentioned other municipalities is that over the years, like on Westover, the senior center, we donated the property, the school board, and they built the senior center with Better Place Plan tax dollars for our elderly residents in Palatka. And we donated property in Pomona Park, the old school down there, to the community. We've donated the old school out in Johnson to the county as an athletic complex, plus a meeting area. So we have done multiple projects where the county and the school board and the cities have worked together, whether it's running a sidewalk or a water line, you know, that benefits not only businesses and homes that tie in. And so there's a lot of ways to look at this, and if you'll keep
Yeah.
Terry Wright apprised, I won't have to worry about it.
okay, I will.
Yeah.
I'll get all this information.
Certainly, it doesn't hurt to try, and we appreciate what you're looking at here. Don't get frustrated if you can't make it happen this year. Let's just
Oh,
keep
when I
working.
came last year, my first year, I'm like, oh, by the end of this year, I'm gonna have a theater. I know I'm silly.
Okay.
So no, I'm not
No,
frustrated.
that's okay.
Just a second, I'll get this.
Thank
That's
you
what
very
theater
much.
people do, right?
No.
So just keep dreaming and working on it. And sounds like the board is fine with your moving forward. The fact that you understand they don't have the match, but can help you pursue
And that's how
that.
I came in. I knew that I wasn't gonna come in today asking for money. That's not why I came. Support and direction. And
Great.
you've done that.
Only if you do it in Palatka High, again, it sounds like they want it at Crescent City High and Interlochen High. So we'll work on all three.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. All right, moving right on, we're going to need to have a public hearing on an amendment to policies number 5610 and 5611. I don't need to gavel this into a,
No.
okay. Does anyone have any questions on this public hearing, or anyone from the public that would like to comment on this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move we accept or approve policy 5610 as presented.
5611.
And well, I was going to take them separately.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you have to vote on them
All
separately.
right,
I'll
we have-
second it.
We have a motion and a second to go with 5610 policy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Do the next one.
Now we have the next policy that would be.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
sir.
move we approve policy 5611 as presented.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Terry Wright and a second from Jane Crawford. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, moving along to public comments. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to comment today or has filled out a card? No one. Okay. Consent agenda. As presented for the school board by the superintendent, who serves by law as our secretary. Does anyone have anything they would like to pull or comment on?
Not I, Mr. Chair.
I1.
I-1, Any more than I-1?
I have none.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, are you?
I have a motion from Terry Wright.
Oh, no, I've not made it yet, but I will. Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the consent agenda minus I-1.
All right, I have a motion to accept the consent agenda minus I-1.
I'll second
And a
that.
second from Jane Crawford. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I-1, Ms. Cummings.
This was a memorandum, and I'm sorry I did not get with Ms. Muir ahead of time, and I'm not sure if she's the one that would speak to this matter.
She's not here.
But is there anyone else that could maybe, I'm just a little concerned about because it definitely
Well, our
says.
attorney actually can speak to this. He talked to St.
Okay.
John's County School District's attorney, who said he felt very certain we could continue to move forward. I talked to Dr. Joyner, who is the superintendent in St. John's County, and he, the First Coast Technical College is a charter school for him. And so he called me to let me know that they were doing the investigation and to assure me that they would move forward even if they had to take charge of, in their charter and take charge of First Coast Technical, that then we would be working with him. So it sounded to me like, from the conversations I had with the superintendent and that Mr. Douglas had with their attorney, that we were good to move forward. They understood our commitment and what we're doing, and they did not want us to stop. Is that correct?
The attorney I spoke with for the St. Johns County School District said that he had no way of knowing for sure, but he felt like the First Coast Technical College would remain in some form, and that the relationship between St. Johns County and Putnam would remain strong, and that they would do everything in their power to uphold their end of the bargain. However, he did add a caveat, which was they don't know what the final investigation will show. So is there a possibility that it may not go completely as planned?
Excuse me, while you're doing that, we're going to try to get Ms. Odom on the phone.
Okay, and that's, okay. But, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But what I was saying is that even though the possibility is there, all indications are from the folks that we've talked to in St. Johns County is that the risk is low.
Okay.
How to quantify that is difficult to know, and I know that relates to another issue on the agenda coming up as for Mr. Gatchell, but it's a tough decision whether we keep moving forward or we don't. But the people over in St. Johns County have given us as much assurance as they can without coming out in writing and saying, have no worry at all.
Well, I guess as far as.
This particular item, though, is just for their cosmetology classes, which they have set up there currently.
Actually,
and
in
so-
small gas engine courses.
They're close, though, okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, I just
But
read
I mean, my
cosmetology. It
concern
is
is-
small gas engine. All right, here's something I want you all to think about. There is nothing that would keep us from doing our own vocational school. We have the site. We currently have the dollars to do the renovation. I hope that when Mr. Buckles meets with our lobbyist as our representative, that he will ask him to continue to pursue the money, because here's how this is funded. St. John's Clay and Putnam are serviced by First Coast Technical College. That means that the state provides money for them. A third of that money is for Putnam, and if something happened and Dr. Joyner decided to take over First Coast and really didn't want to work with us or with Clay County, I would assume that the state would allow us to have our third to continue to do what we want to do with vocational programs here in Putnam County. And so as far as I'm concerned, we would move forward with our plans even if we did them ourselves. I have a very capable, amazing Director of Career Technical Education for Putnam County. And just this year, she worked with the programs, and we have 107 students who have completed industry certification. And that number continues to grow every year. She and her staff do an amazing job. And I know that together with our help, she could manage a vocational school in the location that we currently have signed an agreement with First Coast Tech. And we're going to move forward for the students of Putnam County, no matter what happens with First Coast Tech is our plan.
And that's the thing, I feel like this is a little premature. If we're not sure if Renee were to take it over or us to take it over, once we sign the memorandum of understanding,
Well,
we're locked in.
they're defunct, if they go by the
Yeah,
roadside, this doesn't mean anything anyway.
you
So
falls
it
apart,
just kind
right.
of,
If they
And
dissolve
aren't
as
there
an institution,
repercussions if we don't continue?
that would be my concern, yes. If we don't move forward,
Yeah.
it
I
it
agree
could-
with that. I
it
just,
could cause us problems down the road. So
Okay.
I don't think this is that big an issue, but we'll defer to the attorney.
Right, well, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, I would, oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just want to say something.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon. Maria.
This particular memorandum of understanding, we have been working on it with Ms. Rayburn since like January, February. These are 2 courses that are high school courses that will be offered to 15 students per course, 5 per high school, so 30 students, to be able to have a secondary education career and technical program with the cosmetology as well as the small gas engine. So it doesn't really, it's not dual enrollment, it's the classes that the students would take. It would be like us offering the courses at Palaca High or any one of our other schools, and the students taking that high school course. So it's not,
So it's a high school course code number.
yes, ma'am,
but First Coast is teaching it and we're paying them to do that?
yes.
I'm gonna put you on
Okay.
speaker.
They will.
Discussing
Ms. Cummings, the money,
consent item, but they'll go to
we
emergency
told it to come to us through the legislature, so we're sitting on the money.
Right.
They can't just take it unless they, unless they follow through with the agreements. And we can't just arbitrarily change what we wanted to do because it would not be in the spirit of how we obtained the money
Of the
from the
funding.
legislative, from the House and the Senate and through the governor's office. So we've got to continue on with our program, and we'll do that. I don't see us really having a big bump in the road here. I just see us continuing on because somebody's gonna run it.
Right.
Yeah, that's
But-
what I mean. It's just
These 2
somebody.
particular programs are ones for the high school, the high school programs for the students to come there. And we would provide the transportation for them to come at a certain time. They would all come at the same time, like a class.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you this. If something happens and we can't follow through with First Coast Tech, we could hire the teachers to teach those programs, couldn't we?
Yes, ma'am.
If we're not getting them from First Coast Tech.
Yes, ma'am. Providing that we had the allocation and the approval from,
We'd come to you and ask for the allocations.
board.
You'd
So, I mean,
approve
we're
that,
gonna
and then we'd
continue
hire the
one way or
teachers.
another.
Yes.
We're-
Yeah.
Yes, we
So,
want to
so the
provide this
intent
for our
is to move
students.
ahead with or without.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we
My
want to
only
get it
question-
all
Our
30.
intent.
Right, Mr. Chair, my only question was, if First Coast Tech were to dissolve, or whatever the correct word is,
that's gonna happen.
the money that's already been allocated, that we've spent, in no way, because the original agreement is now minus one of the major players, right? First Coast Tech is now gone. There's going to be no negative recourse back on us to give back money.
There is none.
Right.
And they, I wouldn't say that they're gone. If if it is conducive to the St. Johns County School Board to eliminate them and to take that program, I'm certain that they would take it. If it is not, and they find out there was some double counting and some minuscule
Whatever.
mistakes, then it's gonna continue one way or the other. It'll either be run by St. Johns County or a new
Entity.
Right,
entity
and my
with-
concern is that the person who's in charge of all the plans, the contractor, the architecture work is now on suspension or whatever. So who's in charge of this building, making sure everything's
Scott Gatchell, our Director of Facilities, Scott
okay?
does a
So
great
he can
job.
make
He's,
changes,
Thanks,
Scott
Renee.
can make changes, Scott can make the decisions based upon when they say,
Well, obviously, you guys are ultimately in charge. There's nothing being done over there that's not being approved by the board. and there's no allocation being spent that's not approved by the board. I went to the owners meeting last week. First Coast Technical, Frank has kind of stepped in. They have a meeting today where their board will elect.
Their board
a new,
meets today, yeah. The
correct,
First
chairperson.
Coast
We'll have a
Text.
better idea of what's going on tomorrow. So we have had some conversation about, some of the programs they had over there, and some conversation that we've had. There's a couple things that we thought would be a great program to have. I think that they're very receptive to working with us. I don't see any issues with the construction going on. That money's already been allocated.
Yeah.
You guys have already approved the contract and the drawing, so that work is proceeding. Now, what happens with phase 2 of the money that comes to us in July for First Coast, I guess that'll be seen over the next.
So we already got the money in our little kitty?
Yes,
in our-
ma'am, we do.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
we're
and
actually paying the bills for the work being done over there. So it's not like First Coast has the money.
Yeah, they
We're
don't have the
reimbursing them in any way.
Yeah.
Ms.
What we
Odom
have to
and
be cautious
Shannon are
about
actually-
is that we don't just say, well, now that they're suspended or held up periodically, that we're gonna go out and just make up all these other programs to do with this money what we want to do.
Well, we can't do that anyway.
The spirit that we obtained this money is the spirit that it'll have to be.
And you have to realize we entered a contract with a contractor.
We did.
For specific work, and
That's
if we
what
were to
worries
stop
me.
that now,
Right.
what's happening is not the fault of the contractor either. So we would have a legal issue, I'm sure, with the contractor who is hired to do work that
So the
by no
repercussions.
fault of his own,
Correct.
or
But
the
I'm just
company's
saying,
own.
we're saying this facility is gonna be ready by August.
Well, it's our facility and it's ready. The only real renovation
For
that
these
needs to
programs?
be done is to the kitchen and the dining area to have culinary arts. The other classrooms can be used. They are classrooms. The issue are the bathrooms. The bathrooms are little people bathrooms. And so we need big people bathrooms is one of the things. And there are some other things they'd like to do, windows and roofs and stuff that isn't necessary that we don't have to do. And I don't think that's what they're doing right now. These two programs we can do with no problem, whether we hire the teachers or First Coast hires the teachers. And we have kids that are expecting to be able to take this. So we're wanting to move
Right,
forward.
and I just want to make sure that we've signed an MOU that says at this location, 1001 Hudson Avenue, that location will be ready and that,
Well, it's your property, so you were only going to lease it to them by the year, so, Ms.
Has
Crawford?
a question she'd like to ask.
Scott or Renee, so say it doesn't work out with First Coast Tech. Do we have money to buy the equipment we will need to teach those classes, like the lawn mowers and the whatever else, small gas engines
Well,
and
the money that they're
beauty
spending over there
parlor
right now, I
stuff?
mean, that's a good question. I honestly don't know. I would think that.
That money would come through First Coast Tech has whatever their budget is, and they have budgeted for these programs.
So we'd get
And
it
so
regardless.
Dr. Joyner would be taking over, and he would have to honor
Okay.
what's being done there, and he would work. He's already said he would work with us.
He and the board over there
So
are good friends.
if you've ever been over to St. Johns County and looked at the facility that First Coast Tech has on the property of St. Johns County School District, it's huge and it's wonderful, and Dr. Joyner does not want to give that up, and
Right.
he will operate it himself before he lets anything else happen to it. And at that point, he would either come make a presentation to you or work with me, and I would provide you the information. He does not want it to go away because of what it does for his students as well.
We're
So-
on, and isn't it a good problem to have a few $1 million sitting there trying to figure out what we're
Yeah,
gonna spend on
absolutely.
it?
I've got that problem at my
I'll
house.
take that as a good problem.
No, it's fine. It's just the whole work. I know it's going to happen. It's just the logistics of it that's made me.
And certainly, the money that we were able to get from the fact that the governor didn't veto our dollars, they will know that if something happens to First Coast Tech,
It's not our
it is
fault.
not our fault.
Right.
And they are going to want us to move forward to do things for the children of Putnam
might give
County.
it all.
My only
And
question-
even if we have to rewrite what happens with those dollars, they're going to approve it because they're going to want us to use it for what we said we were going to use it for, which is vocational programs for children.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I agree that everything that has been said is reasonable and rational. However,
However,
when you get to Tallahassee and the evil collective that exists there, perhaps it isn't as reasonable and rational at times. I just want to know, because the original agreement may not exist going down the road, because First Coast Technical may not be here, not saying they won't, saying maybe, that we're not going to be held responsible for paying back $500,000 or $1 million, whatever it comes out
well,
to
we
be.
haven't spent, the only thing we've spent is what happened with the contractor currently. So that money is still there. Actually, it's
We
not.
have to honor the contract, I get it. I
Yeah.
don't have any discussion about that.
And they
But
would
after that-
understand. They would understand in Tallahassee. You don't just reject a contract and create problems. All right, I understand what you're saying. We're rational and reasonable, and they are not.
Correct.
Yes, I don't
that's
know
exactly
that any
what I'm
of us
saying.
can predict what would happen in the future, but I would hope that even our legislature could see that doing things for children is the appropriate thing to do, and that they would not expect something of you as a board that you could not do. And I would assume also from talking to Dr. Joyner that he's going to go to bat for Putnam
Right.
County as well.
Right. Okay, I just have to bring it up.
I know.
Because,
And it's on record, and
Right.
certainly I agree with
just have to
you,
bring
but
it up.
I would really hope
okay,
that even Tallahassee would want to do the right thing by students that they,
Rhonda,
approve money for.
Are you with us? Rhonda?
Bless her
Would you
heart.
like to say anything?
I've been listening and getting my stuff prepared for the Edge, but I do believe that everything, that we will be fine with the money, whether we take on with construction or whether First Coast or St. Johns County is involved. I do not believe that once the state has done the line item for this budget item, that they would take it back just because First Coast might not be able to be able to want to do it, and instead is doing it.
Thank you, Rhonda.
thank you.
And certainly remember that First Coast Technical is provided their money by the state.
Right.
So the state would have some decisions to make, and I would hope, and we would certainly pursue with our lobbyist, getting our third of that money, because right now, they operate for Clay, Putnam, and St. John's. And if they had to disband, my hope would be that the state would, because it's budgeted and it has been for years, that they would give each of us our third and let us move forward to do things for kids. But hey, nothing's happened yet, and
no way
we'll
of knowing.
hopefully at the next meeting have an update from Dr. Joyner in St. Johns County.
Okay, any more discussion?
Nope.
I'll need a motion.
I make a motion to approve I-1.
Second.
A motion from Ms. Cummings and a second from Terry Wright. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We'll move on to, let's see here.
Emergency
Let
session.
me turn the page here.
Emergency session.
Emergency session. All right, I declare us in emergency session. We have a plan of corrective action for Putnam Edge High School charter for submission to the Florida Department of Education. Justification, explanation, it is time-sensitive documentation to be provided by the board attorney, which he has done that. So, any discussion, or do you want to just turn it over to Mr. Douglas?
Mr. Douglas.
Mr. Douglas.
Board members, last Friday, the Chief Financial Officer for the district, Rhonda Odom, declared that Edge for Educational Excellence Incorporated, a charter school here in Putnam County, met the criteria for a deteriorating financial condition as defined by Florida statute. And yesterday, on May 16th, 2016, the Edge Board met with staff from the Putnam County School District to begin drafting a corrective action plan. A corrective action plan is a document required by the Department of Education for us to submit jointly with the charter school, with us as the sponsor, showing the Department of Education how everyone intends to fix the problems that got the charter school into the deteriorating financial condition to begin with. So yesterday, we had a meeting with the Edge Board and came up with some bullet points that you have in front of you now in subsection 2, A through E, on how EDGE intends to correct their financial condition. This is a draft only. So you, the sponsor, have the ability to step in and provide other conditions or recommendations or suggestions. It's one thing I would mention, however, is that as a matter of timing, the EDGE board meets on Thursday of this week. So if we were able to come up with a document today that the chairman may sign off on, and we get that to EDGE board and they vote on it on Thursday, then on Friday, we can submit the corrective action plan to the Department of Education very quickly and show the commissioner good faith that we, the district, and EDGE, the charter school, are coming together as soon as possible to try to remedy the problem. Another thing I should mention is that the deteriorating financial condition of EDGE does not mean that their charter is at risk at this point in time. Their charter still remains intact, and from the sponsor's perspective, we're certainly willing to do everything we can to follow the dictates of the law and come up with a draft corrective action plan so that EDGE can have the best shot possible at succeeding with the continuation of their charter in the future. So we can make changes today on the document that's in front of you, but know that if we make drastic changes, it may not be adopted by EDGE's board on Thursday, and we miss out on an opportunity to get this back in the hands of DOE as soon as possible, which I think would show good faith effort on our part to act swiftly. And that is what the district has done, and that is what EDGE's board has done. They called an emergency board meeting in order to meet with us, and so every side recognizes the importance of this matter and how we can quickly come to a resolution. So at this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Odom, and if the board members have any questions about how Ms. Odom came to a determination of a deteriorating financial condition, she's certainly willing to explain further.
Thank you, Charlie. Board, I have given you 2 documents because I knew I wouldn't be there today. I wanted to submit the letter that went out, I believe, how I came to the deteriorating financial condition. I tried to lay it all out on the line. They have met several instances of being in a deteriorating financial condition, and in their published revised audit report, though it said they did not meet the conditions for financial emergencies, they did say that they believe that based on the procedures, it appears that this was a deteriorating financial condition. A-1.0081, when an auditor mentions that was
Rhonda, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the reception is pretty bad. Are you able to get to a better place where we can hear you clearer?
Let's see, is this any better?
Yes.
That sounds better. Thank you.
Okay. I was not actually holding the phone. I had it down and on speaker, but I'll pick it up. I tried to lay everything out in that letter. I'll go back just a little bit in case you didn't hear me. And this is the second letter that came just to the board and Charlie and Phyllis only. It tried to show my determination of the deteriorating financial conditions. More than one instance, they did not pay some short-term within 90 days of some of their creditors. I believe they've had lien filed against them. They haven't paid a transportation invoice with us that is several months past due, but they've also not maintained generally accepted standards of fiscal management because anytime a school is in a deficit financial condition at the end of any fiscal year, they're in violation of this principle, and EDGE has actually has a negative balance situation since their very first year, but they did meet the deteriorating financial condition, and it's mentioned in the audit report that deteriorating financial condition. When the auditors say that, it says in statute that that is the time that you have to notify DOE, and then you have to come up with this corrective action plan. So if any of you have any questions of me above what you've read in the letters and everything, I'll be happy to try to answer. The first step is this corrective action plan. We do have 30 days to submit that from the date they were notified, DOE was notified, but because of trying to get things done as quickly as possible and showing good faith effort to DOE, and because EDGE also wants to get in good faith on this plan as swiftly as possible, we wanted to try to get that done this week. And us worked on it at today's board meeting. They worked on it Thursday at their board meeting, and then maybe us possibly submitting this with all the required backup on Friday. So does anybody have any questions of me?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jane Crawford does first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Rhonda,
Ladies first.
let's just say they do all this that we have in this letter and they fix all of this. What's to keep it from happening again? I mean, are they going to have like a bookkeeper doing all this where they haven't had before, one person?
We're going to look.
In the meeting yesterday,
I can't hear her.
Well, I think she's trying to talk, but in the meeting yesterday, it is the desire of the EDGE board to find someone with a CPA background to be on the board, to have someone with that background, and I don't know if Mr. Douglas put that in this writing.
It is in there.
It is in there? Okay.
2E.
2E. Sure.
2E.
You read.
Oh, I missed out on 2E.
Yeah. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would simply ask this on D. It says EDGE will immediately begin discussions with Putnam County School District regarding Title I dollars to determine if EDGE was underpaid for eligible students receiving free and reduced lunch. I talked to several people about this, and my impression was that perhaps they were underpaid one year, but overpaid another year with Title I dollars. Is that true?
Yes.
Shannon's nodding her head. Can you hear me, Rhonda?
So we don't owe them anything?
Okay, Shannon, let's defer. I'll ask, Mr. Chairman, I'll ask Shannon, do you know the information on that? Okay, can you help us out?
They were underpaid by $11,000 from previous fiscal year, and they were allocated, or they were over allocated in this fiscal year, so basically it all evened out, so we do not owe them any additional money.
Right, so
why is that in here?
D would be irrelevant, Mr. Attorney?
Rhonda, are you there?
This was something that was requested by EDGE's board because there is a disagreement. The district staff believes that we are correct in our assessment,
Right?
but the principal, Ms. Parsons, specifically asked for some time to be set aside to meet with our staff to go line by line on certain students and be sure that the tallies added up to the way that we got to where we were.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Douglas.
And so I guess it was the thought that, what's the harm in at least opening the conversation? If it is what we believe it is,
Say it again.
it will remain. There's no more discussion.
They
but
heard everything.
They just wanted at
They
least an
are asking
opportunity
you a
to
question.
go line item by line item
Okay.
on those particular students.
I get it, and that's reasonable.
happens if they don't?
But it's also reasonable then for us to go line by line to see if they owe anything back to Title I.
No,
If they were
she doesn't.
overpaid, right? Yes.
Terry's question.
Our
Okay.
Director of Federal Programs is Deborah Buckles, and
She
she has been handling this situation, and she can give you the information.
Thank you, Ms.
I can't, I
Buckles.
don't have it all right in front of me to give you exact numbers, but in the previous year, they were underpaid 11,000
I'm gonna put you on speaker.
some odd, 11,000 some odd.
Okay.
Based on free and reduced lunch rates and per pupil allocations. This year, they were paid off Survey 3 from the previous year. It runs a year behind. And then in Survey 2, we go back and look at all the schools that have been coded K, which means that they're adding or subtracting a grade level. They were adding a grade level, so you go in then and you take their counts, and you go back, and what she's wanting to look at is the free and reduced identification of students. Theirs was so much less because their enrollment had gone up, but their free and reduced lunch students were less. it dropped them into an entire different category, which made them fall from the $500 PPA, which is the per pupil allocation, down to the, I believe it's $325. It may be $375. The numbers are running in my head. Regardless, I had overpaid them $13,500 this year. So we went back with Rhonda and Shannon, and we looked at all of that, and my cost center basically took on that expense because I owed them over $11,000. I had overpaid them this year, and we made it equal out. What Ms. Parsons wants to look at is which students were actually identified as free and reduced. She thinks there's some error in that. If there is, that is, again, not anything I have any control over. That's done through the Department of Agriculture and our Food Service Department, through our IT department, transmitted to Tallahassee, sent back to me. It comes pre-populated to me on a PSES, which is the it's going to leave me. But anyway, that's how we determine how much money each one of our students or each one of our schools gets. And so that's what she wanted to look at. And I don't have any problem with that either, because if we've made a mistake, then there was a mistake made somewhere down the line, and we'll fix that.
No, that's fine. I'm fine
It's
with that.
public school eligibility survey. Sorry, I knew it was running around in my head.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Buckles. I just wanted to be clear that that it cuts both ways. You know, maybe you're underpaid here and overpaid here. So at the end of the day, they may be owed Title I money, or they may be philosophically owing Title I money back.
One
to the
year
district.
I owed them, this year they owed me, and we try not to let that happen, but it did. So we're working on that.
But as students
Actually, we've
come and
already worked
go
on it.
And their eligibility
It's a
for
difficult
free and
process.
reduced lunch changes based on the students. The students that are leaving may have had free and reduced lunch. Some of the kids coming in may not qualify for it. So it doesn't hurt to look.
No,
And
doesn't.
that's all she wants to do. What you need to understand, though, these are federal dollars.
I get it.
And they
They're not
can
state
only be
dollars.
used for specific purposes. Even if we find some students that qualify and receive some additional dollars for them, it doesn't fix their problem. You can't use federal dollars to make up for deficits in your
Okay.
budget.
Okay,
I
now
just
let-
heard,
need to be
and
clear about that.
I had this thought as well. We're talking about a little small pot of money compared to the
Right.
debt and the problem that they've
That's what I
got.
was
It's not
just
going to solve it. But if we owe them money, we're going to give it to
No,
them.
yeah, right. I just wanted to lay out there that this knife cuts both ways. And
Yes,
then
sir.
issue 2 would be, and it's a question, let's just hypothetically say we go back and look at each student. And let's say we find 10 students that were not
Coded properly.
coded properly. We just pay them that money, right? Or do we make it up, or do we say,
We try to make it up, and
Right.
there's an amendment process that we go through. Rhonda's written a letter to to the auditors to answer how we're going to approach this, to make sure it meets with their approval. Yes, there are procedures in
Right.
place to try and rectify
okay,
this.
I'm happy.
Okay.
Mr. Attorney, I had a quick question about
that it for me?
2A.
Yep, thank you.
Ms. Crawford has a question.
No, Nikki does.
Ms.
It's
Cunningham.
about the mortgage with Ameris, that they will commit to list the property for sale immediately. Does that mean that they will not continue making their mortgage payment?
Or trying to restructure.
That's part of the conversation that they plan to have with Ameris, because I believe that they are behind now,
Okay,
either 1 month or 2 months.
okay,
And that is one of the largest obligations.
Absolutely. Yeah,
If
that's
they can
kinda-
get that fixed, either by getting rid of the property and not having a mortgage payment anymore, or restructuring it, that will go a long way in helping. At least that's my understanding. Rhonda will be able to comment better on that, because she would have the numbers.
And
Should be back on. and
Rhonda,
said she did
can
answer
you
a
hear
question
that?
for Jane, but we didn't hear it. so
Rhonda,
she'll
can
do
you
that.
hear that?
Help me, Rhonda.
Yeah, well, anyway, I will tell you that the discussion on evacuating the building or letting it go came up, but it was decided that it would look better to state officials to be attempting to hold on and restructure than it would be to throw in a towel. It just looks like one more nail in a, in a bad spot. So, I mean, it's every question you've asked, we've covered as ad nauseum yesterday, but it is your right to ask today. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for Charlie.
Okay.
Well, you, because you were there, and Phyllis. Was their entire board present at this meeting, these meetings?
3 of the 4 board members were there.
So do you feel like, did the same board member not come to both have y'all met twice?
No.
Just
I
once?
met with the school officials, the parents and stuff.
Right. How committed do you feel that their entire board is to doing this?
I need Rhonda Odom's room, 322, please.
The 3 members that were there are very committed to moving forward and trying to make this work. And certainly, Mr. Buckles was representing you all, saying that we certainly would like to see
Yes.
them make it work. The issue is that we have Florida statute that we have to follow. And so
Right,
that
the
was
biggest commitment needs to come from them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe this will be that.
And how they get that done, and certainly this, what Mr. Douglas has put together has to go to Tallahassee, and then they have to approve it.
Right. They may tell us that they need to do something else.
Because we will have to attach the last 3 statements that we've gotten on their finances, and someone at the Department of Education, their comptroller or someone, will be looking at that and helping them determine if they feel like the plan that EDGE says they can do and that Mr. Douglas has provided for us is something that will work for them. And if, I'm assuming if DOE feels good about it, then they'll say, hey, move forward. If they don't, I guess they'll give us some other kind of comment.
Yeah, and I should say that we should anticipate that there will be amendments to this as we work through the process in the weeks and months ahead. Either DOE will have some suggested changes, or based on how things are coming along with EDGE's reports to us, we may ask to amend parts of the corrective action plan, or EDGE may request that too. So this is kind of a document that will continue to evolve as we move forward, but this at least gets us started on a good track.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, was anything discussed in the meeting about a sales and marketing plan? I hate to use those terms, but a marketing plan for the school,
Yes.
a growth plan for the school. Was there any discussion on the fact that you can only cut expenses so much? You're going to have to increase revenue, which means gain students. I mean, this is just common business principles here.
Yes.
And
So-
Ms. Parsons did talk about that and said that they do have room for additional students. She
That's
was
not a
trying
plan. Room is not a plan.
Well,
120.
you're right
and
about
Okay, that's
that.
not a plan.
He is marketing, the stuff, the article in
Right.
today's Black of Paper certainly, and no offense, Asia, and I take it this way, certainly doesn't help, because I did talk to Ms. Parsons, and she's had parents calling worried that kids aren't going to be able to graduate, but you and I both know if you pay these accreditation fees and you stick with it, you're going to get accredited. But there is a plan to be proactive and to go out to get the students. I can't tell you exactly verbatim what the plan was, but she'd already had enough contacts to really meet. She was within 10 students of the 120, I think,
Yes.
110.
That's great news. I mean, if that's true, that is great news. And if they will stick, that's the deal. Because, things happen, kids come and go, parents move. But,
Well, there's,
okay,
there's traditionally about a 40% mobility rate, or 50%.
Right.
Phyllis can tell you. So they're going to come and go.
right, and that's my question. Just so down the road, I mean, perhaps it might be important to add somewhere in here, give us your business plan. What's your growth model? Because it is not like a public school. I mean, charters are different, and people have to get that. They operate differently. Sometimes it's an advantage to them, sometimes it's a disadvantage to them, but they operate differently. And having a marketing plan and a growth plan is part of, I would think, what they would need to be successful. So just at some point down the road, maybe not today's the day, but down the road, we might need to see that. That's what I'm suggesting.
Well, we hit about every area that you could hit. Rhonda, did you want to add anything?
Well, I'm sorry that we got cut off. I explained a big, long response to Ms. Crawford's question, but apparently y'all didn't hear it. The weather is bad here, but we're now on a landline in case anybody has any further questions, or if Ms. Crawford would like me to briefly discuss her question. I'm not sure if anything was said after y'all weren't hearing
She
me.
said she would love to hear you repeat it.
Okay. She had asked what would happen that if we do all of this and it fixes it all, but they get back in this situation. Well, basically what's going to happen, it's going to take a while for them to ever get back into a positive situation, but if they do some of the things that they've laid out in this plan, it'll help their cash flow, and they will slowly start regaining back toward a positive balance, but there's nothing whatsoever that we can say or do that would guarantee that this will never happen again. I do know that DOE, once they have this plan, whether they approve it or ask us to amend it some, they will start keeping a closer eye on it. Just like now that we have initiated this, we will be, monthly delving in a little deeper, asking questions. We'll keep an eye on everything as it goes forward. If they do sell this building, and they only are in our facility one more year, they're going to have to go out and try to find another location, so it may be that they get right back into a mortgage and everything. But if they can get the students, and if they can do away with some of the expenses we've talked about, and if they can get somebody on their board, which I don't know if y'all had heard me earlier, they're trying to get someone on their board with a financial background, maybe even a CPA, someone to serve. They can't currently afford to hire a position as a bookkeeper or anything like that, and I had mentioned that, currently they just have the audit, the person that they send their paperwork to, and they pay $500 a month to, but this person's only going to look at what they gave them and put it up in a document to meet the letter of the law, sending us the financial statements. So as they move forward, we will certainly be suggesting, as they can start to afford it, to get somebody even part-time on board that can help them, that would have a financial knowledge. Anything that we can do to try to help provide them ideas, we will do that, but there's no way really to guarantee that this couldn't happen again. If they can't get the number of students that they need to be solvent, or to have an excess so that they can take care of some past due items and to start moving ahead, they could end back up in this situation again. But we felt that we had to do something because they have not met the generally accepted standards of fiscal management by being in the deficit financial condition the end of every year since they've been a charter school. They had the audit that said they were, based on our procedures, it appears that the school has a deteriorating financial condition, so that pumped it into overdrive, and we, basically felt like we had to notify DOE. So we will certainly be keeping a close eye. We'll be working with EDGE Board, and we'll be working with DOE once, this plan has been approved to stay on top of this and keep it monitored, and we'll be reporting to the board periodically on how it's going.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Rhonda.
You're welcome.
One question for Rhonda. Do they know what student count they need to maintain throughout the year to hit their budget numbers?
They can maintain with 115 students
Right.
or 120, but that would not be enough to take care of past due obligations, I do not believe. If they can cut out some of the expenses, water, electricity, they talked briefly about they didn't know whether they can get rid of all of that while they have the building on the market because it might do something with the property taxes. I'm not going to delve into all that. I'm not aware of what all is required. But if they can cut some monthly expenses, it will certainly be enough at 120 to have them working toward slowly improving that bottom line. And they have room for 120 where they're currently located.
All right.
I just want to make sure that it was addressed. I'm still going back to 2A about putting the property on the market, and if they're not making mortgage payments, and if the risk of foreclosure or a short sale because they don't have any equity built up in this property, so they're still going to be responsible for the short sale even if they sell it for a price less than what they owe. I mean, has that been discussed?
Right. They did consider that, and EDGE, if we do a workshop or they come here, I'll let them speak to that themselves, but I believe that the purchase price was around 880,000, an appraisal somewhere around 179. They have made payments since May of 2013. So to the extent that the principal has been reduced to some degree, that will benefit them. But in the current market environment,
That's,
how much is it really going to sell for? Nobody can know. But I think the sentiment from yesterday's meeting was that the hope is that an agreement can be worked out with the Marist, but they didn't want to wait to get to the other end of that conversation and the conversation not succeed and then put the property up for sale, because then they would have lost out on that time. So might as well go ahead and put it up for sale now. And that way they can be courting potential buyers while they're going through the conversations with the Marist.
Okay, so let me ask the obvious. If they sell their building that they were going to move into, do they have a plan B on where they would like to drop anchor and grow?
St. John's River State College taking over the charter. That is their dream, and I've kind of, that's what they said. They want to hold together. It is a feeling of the parents to hold together long enough that the college would maybe take them over. Now, if that doesn't happen, I think they're going to go right along and try to, they're going to muscle through the situation, because I see a lot of tenacity there. But, what people don't all know is that only about 20% of those students could actually qualify to attend the collegiate high school. So it's not as easy as it all looks. So we covered.
I just bring that up because
one
that is
last
what
thing.
we will have to sort through
Right.
in the,
To
Thanks
answer your
ahead.
question, no.
no, right, okay.
Well, here's the problem that I see, and Charlie and Phyllis and I dealt with, is it is what we deem it to be. If this is a deteriorating condition and we deem it to be beyond putting up with any longer, sure, we could enact procedures. Then they go into an emergency procedure amendment with DOE, and it just drags on and on and on. Or we can find a way to resolve this in a manner that will help benefit the kids and the students and the staff, and without going through this process. But at some point, DOE may call back and say this is not sufficient, and that's what Charlie was alluding to.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would simply say.
Chairman Buckles,
use
could
the
I
word-
speak up for just a brief second?
Yes, ma'am.
I just received an email from Pat, and John Nelson has resigned from the board effective tomorrow. So just wanted to throw that out there too, since we're discussing this.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, use the word "what we deem it to be." I was very clear in our last meeting that any action we take concerning charters, this one or any others, is strictly based on statutory principles, as well as then any interpretation of those phrases needed by general accounting principles as to what would constitute financially a deteriorating position. And I'm not arguing with you, David. I'm just saying, the word "deem it to be" seems to be somewhat arbitrary. This decision to move ahead and declare them in a financial declining situation, deteriorating situation, was strictly statutory and was objective based upon standard accounting principles, accepted accounting principles. So if it were to go to another step, it would not be personal. It would not be a decision. It would simply be axiomatic based upon the law and how the law is interpreted by common accounting principles. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not a personal thing.
That's correct, but school
Right.
boards are self-judiciating bodies, and we can choose to override our own policies.
But not states.
Not state policies.
Not
But
states,
we
that's right.
can, and it's,
That's right.
whether, if we develop our own steps, we can choose to override them, and it's set up that way because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
So, Mr. Douglas, Rhonda, did you want to comment any more?
Not unless anybody has questions of me.
I have no more. I don't.
No, I'm good.
Well, I wanted to say, I almost feel like they should, I hope in their heart of hearts that they're relieved that we're working out a way to help them continue, and that is our goal, to see that EDGE continues.
I think they feel that way. I feel certain. And I don't see any malice on the part of this board at all to try to do the steps that you've done, and when, in essence, we could be doing what St. Johns County is doing and, suspending a lot of activities with First Coast Tech, so we're not there.
It's very similar to what St. Johns County is going through with First Coast Tech. And I think this board has been over backwards and been more than gracious and giving them plenty of time to try to work out these issues on their own. What we did yesterday in forming this plan to send to the Department of Education, we could have done months ago, actually. So we've given them ample time to work it out on their own. And our board attorney, having read the statutes, felt that we needed to do, you as a board need to do what the statutes say. He organized all of that, had us come together. We had great discussion. He got what he felt was appropriate for the corrective action plan. And after all the discussion, he put that together. And that's what's before you today to approve, to send to the Department of Education. Well, actually, we approve it. You approve it today. Tomorrow, it goes to their board. And all three of the board members were there. The one that has apparently resigned as of tomorrow was not present, but the others were there and heard it. So at their board meeting tomorrow, EDGE's board meeting, they will also sign the corrective action plan because they got it today. They know what it is. And then by Friday, your attorney will make sure that the Department of Education gets this plan.
Okay. Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to approve the plan of corrective action for Putnam Edge High School for submission to DOE.
I have
I'll second it.
A motion from Ms. Cummings and a second from Ms. Crawford to approve. Any additional discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That takes us out of emergency session and into old business.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to remove from the table price amendment to guaranteed max price.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to remove from the table the price amendment to guaranteed maximum price for renovation of space leased by First Coast Tech, and also to increase from estimated guaranteed maximum price approved on April 5th, 2015. I have a motion and do I have a second?
Yeah, I already seconded.
Terry second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Number 2, tabled item, price amendment to guaranteed maximum price for renovation of space leased by First Coast Technical College, increase from estimated guaranteed maximum price approved on April 5th, 2015.
Mr. Chair, I spoke with Mr. Getchell, and I feel confident that as long as he's overseeing this process and not just First Coast, because I keep thinking we are the landlord, we're not the tenant, so we can make these decisions. So as speaking to him and the attorney, I feel confident that we can move forward and approve that price amendment.
All right, I have a motion.
I'll second that.
I have a second from Ms. Crawford. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Takes us to new business. We have discussion, input, and approval to allocate $1,200 to the following middle school band program, George C. Middle and C.H. Price, and I have Julia Horton from Price here to speak today.
Thank you for coming.
Greetings, I am Julia Horton, the band director at Price Middle School, and my assistant band director, Joe Hartley. Thank you, Superintendent Criswell and board, for having me. I just kind of wanted to go over, I received an email from Pam Douglas saying, hey, could you come out and just tell me about what's going on in your program? And so I'm very excited to be here to do that. First, I want to say that my administration is amazing. Leah Lundy and Ted Hengel, my principal and assistant principal, are wonderful supporters of the program and really, really do a lot to help out. The other directors in the county, we share instruments, music, expertise to try to make sure that everybody receives, the best education that we possibly can. We have performed about 30 times this year. Wow. At the middle school level. We have had 4 complete band concerts, the beginning concert, symphonic jazz band, 4 concerts, 1 person per 9 weeks. We've done a marching night with Interlochen High School, where we've had some preparation days where we've prepared or practiced with them. We've done pep rallies. We had an all-county band performance and the various rehearsals. We participate in the spring music extravaganza where all of the bands in the county get together and play. We've gone to the elementary school and performed. They've come to our school, and we actually performed for them today, and that was a lot of fun. I take the kids to Sullivan Ensemble, where they prepare a piece of music and play it in front of a judge with an accompanist, and then they receive a rating: superior, excellent, good, fair, or poor. And we had, how many did we take this year? I think we took 11 or 12, and we only had all but one received superior, which was awesome. We participate in the FBA, the Florida Bandmasters Association Music Performance Assessment, where we take the band and we play in front of judges, and we received an excellent rating, which was really, really quite good. Let's see. We do, with the jazz band, we do Bugs dinners, the Bring Up Grades dinners for the school. We do parent nights. We did the Rotary Club auction. We went out to the Babe Ruth opening and the jazz band played at the Babe Ruth opener. I take a small group of children up to Troy University for the honor band and clinic. And how many did we take? We took 4 or 5 this year. Usually it's anywhere between 4 and 10. They nominate up to 10. So we took those 4 wonderful parents. And we sent a student to the All-State Honor Band in Tampa. Ezekiel Bailey went and performed with the Middle School Honor Band in Tampa.
What instrument?
He was trombone.
Trombone.
And he's an 8th grader, so that was pretty awesome.
How many band members do you have at this time?
If you look at my class rolls, I have 140 kids in band. My top performing group, the symphonic band, has 42 kids. I wanted to talk about my instruments because Mr. Hartley is holding one of my beautiful instruments. If you notice, we kind of do what we can to keep it functioning. So you can show them too. We have lots of nice tape. We've taught the kids how to make sure that we get the most out of the instruments before we go spend some money. That instrument,
Ms.
I was
Horton,
talking
what would that cost?
to repair, about $500.
No, a new one?
Oh, a new one? Anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000
For one.
for just one like that.
Crawford said she'd buy 5.
I love you. Thank you.
I would if I could.
That's right. It's a Barry sax, baritone saxophone. That particular instrument is about 20 years old. Mr. Albanese and I were talking today that I said, I know that was here before me, and I've been there for 15 years. And he said, well, I remember ordering it with Everett McCon 20 years ago. So that one is probably 20 years old, and I haven't bought instruments in years because we just kind of tried to repair things. My school is wonderful about giving me repair money at the beginning of the year, and I make choices. I can repair 10 flutes, clarinets, trumpets, or 2 of the big instruments. So I go for numbers and repair the most that I can with the amount that I have. And like I said, they are wonderful about giving me money. But I do have a very old fleet of instruments. We probably have 30 or 40 instruments that we rent out to kids throughout the year. And the rental fee is very minimal, and it barely covers, some of the upkeep. Overhauls for something like this, like I said, would probably be $400 or $500. For the smaller instruments, it's like $200.
But on an instrument like that, would an overhaul work? I mean, is it beyond that point? Because sometimes they can get beyond that point.
So you're talking to someone who put tape on it.
I give Terry Wright some duct tape.
Yeah, you know what?
I am magic with duct tape.
I could probably fix that thing. Let me take that home.
Yes, but okay, so let me talk about the kid who plays this. He's amazing. He makes this duct tape ridden horn sound awesome. I mean, imagine what he would sound like on a brand new instrument. I mean, it's really something because the kids are awesome.
Right.
we are looking to expand our music program beyond just band. We would like to offer a world music with some of the different, like, the African drumming. I have a friend who has, yes, I have a friend who has a Japanese drumming ensemble. We would like to do something where we expand a little more, maybe guitar class. And of course, all this takes money, which, duct tape, right?
That's why you're here.
That's right.
Mr. Hartley can do anything.
So, I know on my list, I have my whole list here, that I wanted to talk about the summer music camp that we do at Price. We offer anyone from going into 6th grade through 12th grade to come for a week in the summer. And we had our first summer music camp last year, and it was awesome. They came Monday through Thursday, and then on that Thursday we did a final performance. We plan to do the same thing this summer, June 20th through 23rd. All the directors in the county get together and we put it on, and it was.
And
it was
they
really
donate their time. They do not get paid for doing that.
awesome. That's right.
And it's free to the kids?
We're charging $15 so that they'll show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because usually if you pay money, you'll actually come.
Absolutely.
So.
Sure.
So we charge $15. We give them the music, and you guys are wonderful about making sure that they get a lunch and trying to provide transportation across the county, coming from Crescent City and Palaca out to Price. So that's pretty wonderful. Yeah, I would like to encourage you all to come out to some of our events, because we've done a ton of stuff and we love seeing y'all there.
Just let us know each time you have something.
Absolutely. So, I guess that's...
Okay.
Well, Ms. Crawford, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, we heard from Miller Middle, was it our last board meeting, about their band program, and she brought some students with her, and it was wonderful. So I know what y'all are doing is wonderful. So I would like to make a motion that we approve to allocate $1,200 to George C. Miller Middle School and C.H. Price Middle School.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the request. Any discussion?
I think you guys are, I just want to say you guys are doing a great job.
And we wish we could give you more.
I was fortunate enough to be an athlete and a band person, and I tell you, both have great value.
Well, you had to be something, because I know you weren't much of an athlete.
No, I wasn't. But they always need people to keep the bench warm, right?
Yeah.
So that was my
He'd have
position.
knocked you in the next week and hit you with playing football.
I was a good bench warmer.
I bet. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and I do love Terry Wright.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Hartley, it's always a pleasure to see you. Good to see you. I can just see a fired up Terry Wright coming at you, 120 pounds,
135, thank you.
135 pounds of bone and muscle.
Absolutely right. And 2 functioning brain cells. That's what makes you a good football player.
Oh, I need to be quiet. Okay, reports by board members. I will start with Ms. Crawford. She's
No,
looking
start with
for a
somebody
sheet of
else,
paper
'cause
that I hid from. I couldn't help it, because I know you were so bad wanting to read something. Go ahead.
Well, I just want us to give
Charlie agreed that it would be nice to do that.
a shout out to all of our teachers at this time of the year. I know how stressed out they all are, and they're holding it together, and we need to commend them for that. Theirs is a profession that has become increasingly difficult and demanding, and they just need to know how much we support them. So I want our teachers to know that we're behind them, and thank them for what they do day in and day out. Very quickly, I saw a lot of beautiful prom pictures on Facebook, and I haven't heard anything bad happening over the weekend, so I guess all went well with prom. And another shout out I want to give is to the high school guidance counselors. Right now, they're doing a lot of dragging, kicking and screaming seniors across the diploma threshold.
Yes.
There are some that they get to graduate in spite of themselves, and it is one of the hardest jobs in the world. I've been there, and we don't pay our high school guidance counselors enough, any of them really, but, you know, when a student has decided to sabotage themselves and keep themselves from graduating, and you've got counselors who are demanding that they graduate, it's pretty tough. So, hang in there, guidance counselors.
Do you need to read anything else?
No, that was just my reminder.
Okay. Well, then we'll move on to Miss Cummings.
Oh, you make me crazy.
I'll be very quick because there's a great science night tonight at Browning Pierce that the kids and families are all invited to, and it's free. So I will be attending, and I'm excited. So that all these great events, I can't even begin to tell you. The board tries to be at everything, and it's so exciting to see the parents. I always watch the parents' faces when those kids get awards. So I want to thank parents for those ones that push and are involved and get those kids up every morning and push them through the day and make them do their homework, because those are the ones that we are going to see investing in our community and coming back and helping our community make a better place. So thank you, parents.
Miss Crawford.
I forgot one thing.
one thing that she didn't have written down on this.
I did, and Miss Criswell might mention this, but just in case, our capstones, what are they called? The engineering students at Palatka High School are presenting their capstone project tonight that they did with Georgia Pacific. And so we're going to get to see that as it has come to fruition. It's at 6 o'clock at Palatka High School, and it's going to be very exciting for any of you who might like to attend.
Are you going to go?
Yeah, they're going to show us how to haul toilet paper from one place to another.
I'm going as well. And that's not what they're going to show you. Mr.
Well,
Rock.
it has something to do with that.
Just a couple things for you. Mary Poppins in it, of course, last week. Great job to everybody involved. Spring games are happening for our football team, so please be noting that. I'll be going to PHS tomorrow night, watching my son kick. Graduations are coming on. Ms. Crawford talked about that. Looking forward to all of those ceremonies. I will be attending Science Family Night tonight at Browning Pierce, so we will be down there looking at science stuff. So, and I'm done, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I would like to give a shout out to my granddaughter Miley, who was with the Jenkins Middle School archery program. And
Yes.
she was in
Awesome. They are
Kentucky, and
amazing. I forgot to
She killed a
shout
lot
out
of
to her.
targets up there, I can tell you that. And I have another granddaughter, Macy, who's in Washington, D.C. with the safety patrol right now from James A. Long. And the last thing, I'm gonna make it pretty quick. I heard it was Miss Crawford said something about prom. Every year this time, kids kind of go unconscious, and they don't realize, they think life lasts, hundreds of years, and every year they get distracted and they get in some tragic accident, and it never fails that we lose a child or two each year.
Graduation.
And to just get through, if we could let everybody in the community know how important it is to watch out for our kids and our young people driving. And parents need to really know where their children are through the next few weeks, because sometimes it's a week or so after, and they kind of like they don't have their mind on what they're going to do in the future, and we still lose them. But I've done that for so many years, I got tired of going to funerals. But with that, that's a somber note. I will say that the Edge Board meeting was pretty interesting, and for the member who resigned, thank him for his service to them. But they're going to have to move on. So, Mr. Douglas, it is your turn.
Thank you, Chairman. Things have been busy in the legal department lately.
They really have.
I know they have.
They really have.
We are still working on the sale of the Campbell Building, and last week received a letter of intent. There was a minor technical thing that needed to be amended, and the proposer made the amendment, and so now we're in the phase of trying to put everything into a contract that hopefully I'll be able to bring back to the board at the next meeting for final approval. And yes, sir.
Charlie, just a couple questions on that. Some things, I had some calls over the last few weeks. Some people are a little concerned about maybe the function or the use of that building. And though we can't get into, planning their business, are we still entertaining bids, or we've not closed out the bid process, right?
Absolutely not.
So anyone can still come to the table?
Yes, yes.
Right.
And not to get too far into the details of the negotiation, but that is something that Mr. Weeks explained to the board when he made the presentation, was that he didn't want to harm the district, so that if another purchaser came along during the time that he needed for due diligence and wanted to make an outstanding cash offer, that the board would not be precluded from entertaining bids even during the time that we would be under contract with Mr. Weeks, if it's the decision of the board to enter into that contract.
Right, and just because he makes an offer doesn't mean we have to accept it.
Correct.
Yeah, so,
I know I was the one that was outspoken against taking a returnable binder, and I had that same concern, but Mr. Douglas assured me they'd work out the details.
okay. All right, thank you, Charlie, I'm done.
Madam Superintendent.
What a week it is. April and May are amazing before we get to graduation, and so certainly I've had more people wanting to know if we could extend performances of Mary Poppins.
Oh my gosh.
I have gotten calls, I'm telling you, people in town, people out of town. So let me take this opportunity to publicly thank Jim Pignato. He is absolutely amazing. He does all of that hard work for no pay. He has included children and young adults from one end of the county to the other. And all I can say is I look forward to the next play in the fall. And I hope he will do this forever. He is absolutely amazing. And what a treasure to have in Palatka, and people from out of town. Mr. Collier was telling me today that we've already had a church from out of town call and want to make reservations for their 200 members to come to the next play.
You're kidding.
So, I mean, just the work that those students do, it is hard when you see them in those costumes to believe that they are our students. They sound like professionals. It is absolutely amazing, and we are very, very fortunate to have Jim Pignato, and we want him to do that as long as he wants to do it. It's tremendous for the community, and it says so much to people outside of Putnam County about the great things we have going on here. And certainly, the last few weeks, we've celebrated the Career Tech Superstars, which is sponsored by Seminole Electric, our 8th grade honors by Georgia Pacific, and our top 50 seniors by Palatka Daily News. So we have local business that works with us on so many things for our students, and we just want to take this opportunity to also publicly thank them. And certainly we had lots of local businesses, large and small, that contributed to Mary Poppins, their time and materials, and they volunteered and they gave, and we can't thank them enough. They were listed, of course, on the back of the program. High school showcase, we did that for the first time this year, and we hope to make it an annual event, because certainly our high schools outdid themselves setting up for that and showing everybody what they have to offer, and it was truly amazing. We have lots coming up, lots of activities. There is no shortage daily and in the evening for all the different activities at all of the schools, because they're having their programs, they're having band programs, they're having awards programs. We have in Pam and Sharon's office a whole list. If they haven't provided it to you, or if you've lost yours, certainly they can give it to you. So lots of fun and wonderful things coming up. Particularly graduations. I hope you're keeping up with those dates, because we have E.H. Miller graduation. That'll be Friday, May 27th at 9:30 in the morning. And then certainly we have the other graduations that I hope you're aware of. Interlochen High School, Tuesday, May 31st, 8 o'clock in the evening. We have Crescent City High School's graduation Thursday, June 2nd at 7:30 in the evening, and Palatka High School's graduation Friday, June 3rd, 8 o'clock in the evening. So make sure you have those on your calendars so you can be there. It's a wonderful time of year where we get to celebrate all the successes of our students. And that's all I have today. Thank you very much. Happy
so
time
much.
of year.
Yes, ma'am.
More thing about Mary Poppins. I'll hold my umbrella. I had the pleasure of And homeschool children.
Right.
We have one or two, and
All levels.
all levels.
Be happy to have them on there.
Yes, they do get a professional education, no doubt. But the parents, without their help and support,
Mhm.
we would not have been able to do that.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you. All right, that concludes our meeting. Is meeting adjourned?